Welcome back to RXMuscle's Iron Road to the Olympia 2018. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we have a very special guest today. He's a good friend to the show, and it might be his last Mr. Olympia and last contest ever, so we have him here for a very special interview. Our old friend, Jose Raymond.
What's up, Dave?
I shouldn't have said our old friend. I should say our young old friend, Jose
Yeah,
Raymond.
I'm old too.
How old are you now, anyway?
I'll be 44 in December.
Okay, that's still relatively young. Now, why did you make this contest your last?
My last Olympia, for sure. Just because, you know, Dave, the amount of work and effort it takes to compete at this level and to be competitive at this level is something that I don't foresee myself going through next year. I have a bad hip. I have injuries that have caught up to me, and my heart is still in it. I could do it, you know, if it were up to me, I would do it another 10 years, but
Right.
I'm in pain every day, like excruciating pain. It's not just a nagging pain. It's,
Oh, really? That bad, huh?
it's horrifying. Like to tie my shoe is a project. To get in and out of my truck is a project. But oddly enough, I can still squat 500 pounds.
Now, do you have a hip problem in the sense that you need maybe a hip replacement, or is it just like a nagging tendonitis or something like that?
No, I 100% need a new hip.
Oof.
And I'm getting it in January.
Oh, you are? Really? Now,
Yeah.
how could you squat 500 pounds if you need a hip replacement?
Because I still get all the muscle there. It's just, you know, I'm bone on certain movements. I can't do internal rotation of my knee. Like, that
Right.
is horrible. But I can still sit and push. You know, I can squat. I can do that motion. I can do leg extensions. I can do hamstring curls, and I can squat. But
Right.
like a stiff leg deadlift going forward or bent over rows, I can't even do it. Can't even do that
Wow.
motion.
Interesting.
So leaning forward to tie my shoe is like a project every day.
Well, you know what happens is everything catches up to you, and obviously we put our bodies in harm's way every day when we go to that gym, and you know it sometimes, you know, wherever we have weaknesses, genetically speaking, that's where it creeps up in you. And you've had knee problems too. I have a feeling some of your knee problems were probably referred pain from the hip, I would think, right?
100%. My doctor even said it. My brother had both of his hips replaced.
Oh, really? And he doesn't even train as heavy as you, does he?
Yeah, he's very strong. He does, I mean, he's back to squatting 400 pounds again now, deadlifting and everything.
After the hips?
Yeah.
He's
yeah.
crazy.
He's a machine, and he's 50 pounds lighter than me.
Well, I know. He doesn't look that big. You know what the funny thing is? When I got my shoulder redone, I'm so afraid to lift heavy. I have no pain. Believe me, I could probably lift way heavier. Once I get this other shoulder done, I'm nervous because I'm going to feel too good, but I'm purposely keeping my weights lighter because I don't want to have to get it redone anytime soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you can do it, then do it. You know, try to push it.
Right.
I wouldn't, you know, there's no need for you to be overhead pressing 315 or anything.
No.
But you can push a little more and strengthen yourself.
Yeah, no. Well, it's amazing because, Jose, I've been in pain so many years now, for 15 years with my shoulders, that when I got the shoulder redone and I was pain-free, it was like a miracle almost, because I never thought I was going to be out of pain. You know, when you're living with pain all the time, and every time you work out you're in pain, you think that's never going away because you think it's impossible for it to go away, you know. And then when you get it done, it's like someone waved a magic wand, so to speak, you know.
Yeah, well, that's exactly why I'm okay with not competing anymore. I look forward to not being in pain.
Right, but what if you get the hip done and you feel good again? Then you might get sucked back into the whole, you know, I want to do it again thing.
Yeah, well, I'll train for sure and rehab it and see what happens. But I mean, once you get a new hip, there's no way to, you know, and I need to like atrophy to recover.
Right.
And you know, to try to get back to world class musculature is just, and then now I'll be 44, turning 45. I mean, I had a good run. I can sleep at night. I'm looking forward to other things in the future.
Well, you're an Arnold Classic champ. You know, you were second at the Olympia. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Now, let me, I want to take a step back. I want to take a different approach. We've talked a million times. We've done interviews. And, you know, I'm not really interested in how many chicken breasts you're eating for the Olympia because it doesn't really matter. I know you're going to be your best. Chris has sent me, you know, told me how great you look. And I know you're going to give Flex a run for his money again. And hopefully, you know, we'll see you in that, at least the runner-up position, if not better, at the end of the day. But I want to go back a little bit. You told, Chris took a trip down to see how you were looking. Which I'm sure somehow had a school trip in mind for his son when he did it, and he probably wanted to look at real estate knowing Chris because he wouldn't go to Maine to Boston without having an ulterior motive. But he said you gave his son a really interesting pep talk / story, which I thought was so great that I want you to repeat it here because I didn't know this about you. You know, Jose had played football in high school, but you really didn't get much playing time. Tell the story.
So, yeah, Chris came down to see me. He brought his son, Jabril, who is 6 feet tall.
Isn't it amazing how big that kid is?
I mean, he's way taller than Chris. I couldn't believe it. And, you know, I don't know what they had planned for the day, but he kind of had Jabril looking at me. And I said afterwards, I'm like, Jabril, I need some advice, you know. I'm like, what do I need to work on? And he's like, you know, maybe just get your legs a little harder. And I looked at Chris, and Chris, he's like, yep. See? I'm like, all right. So every day since I've been sending him a text. I'm working on it. All right. So we had lunch afterwards, and we just got onto the subject of football and athletics because I'm like, this kid, he could write his own ticket wherever he wants to go.
Sure.
If he's half as good as he looks. So we were talking about football, and I was really good in high school. I was the MVP of my team, and then, you know, because I'm so short, I was 5'4". I didn't get any real looks at any significant colleges, but I went to a really good Division III football school up in Plymouth, New Hampshire, Plymouth State College, and they were like a football factory in Division III up there. And,
right.
And I didn't even get a sniff. I didn't even get a look. I played show team, which is basically you're a tackling dummy for the starting defense.
You're the practice team, basically.
Exactly. And
you were like Rudy from the movie Rudy.
Exactly. I was going 100 miles an hour every day because I was used to being the stud on my,
right.
high school team, and the defense started hating me. They're like, dude, cut it out. Like, we're tired. You're going a million miles an hour. And I'm like, no, this is my game. I'm like, I don't get to see the field, so I'm going to play every day like it's my game.
Right. What did you weigh in college?
I was big. I was 195 pounds.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't shredded, but I was a football player.
Sure.
And you know, the show team offense, all the offensive linemen loved me because, you know, they'd open a little hole and I'd fly through it.
Yeah.
And they knew I was a hard runner.
Yeah.
So fast forward to my senior year, I'm still like 5th on the depth chart. They had a couple freshmen in front of me because I wasn't the prototypical running back, you know.
Did you suit up for the games and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, and just sat there and just watched.
So for 3 years you just sat and you continued to play, even though you didn't play one down.
Yeah, because we had a JV team, and you know, I played JV, but my senior year, I wasn't getting a snip. So, you know, we go into the first game of the year, and the first guy goes down with a knee. The second guy goes down with a concussion. The third guy fumbles. The fourth guy, who's a freshman, is scared out of his tits and runs out of bounds. So the coach looks over at me and he's like, "Go ahead." like, oh my God, I got to put him in. We're really in bad times now, you know. He had nobody else to put in. So I go in, and now this offensive line I've been playing with for 3 years, and they all love me.
Yeah.
We get in. My first carry goes for a 60-yard touchdown right up the middle.
What? Wow.
And the line was, they were like wanting to pick me up. They're all pointing at the coach. We've been telling you for 3 years, put him in, you know. And I didn't say a word. I just went over and stood next to the coach. Like, yep. Yeah. And from that point forward, I carried the ball 20, 25 times a game, every game. I led the league in rushing, scoring, everything.
Really?
I was all East Coast, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, I got what's called the Panther Award, which is like kind of like the Rudy Award.
Yeah.
Yeah. which is the guy with the most heart, the most hustle, the hardest working player on the team, and
Right.
and it was awesome. And I say to this day that was my greatest accomplishment over winning any bodybuilding, trophy, because it just shows that hard work and hanging in there and keep digging, keep fighting, that one day you got to take advantage of that one opportunity. You might only get one shot,
Right.
but you got to be prepared and be ready.
Yeah, that's a great story. Chris told the story fabulously, except he screwed up one point. He made it look. He told me you were in high school when this happened. This is even a better story because you were in college, which is great.
Oh, it was a much better story.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even make sense.
Yeah, guys, I got to yell at Chris now. Now, that's a great story. And that's a story of, hey, you know what? Don't let anyone tell you you can't do anything, because if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And I love that story because, you did that in bodybuilding too. I'm sure people thought this lightweight guy, I remember you were doing Team Universe. I'm like, this guy, you won the lightweight class, then you won the welterweight class. I'm like, what does this guy think he's doing? And then all of a sudden you win the middleweight class, middleweight at nationals, and next thing I know, you're a bona fide pro and doing great. So I mean, you really showed a lot of people in bodybuilding too. But you had some very, dare I say, hard upbringings. I mean, what a heart-wrenching story. Tell the story about you and your brother, because I don't think a lot of people have heard that. I heard like snippets from you, but I never really heard the story, in totality. Chris kind of gave me the Reader's Digest version, but I mean, you overcame some crazy odds, coming up.
Well, long story short, it was I was the youngest of 8, and nobody plans for number 8, so my parents couldn't afford to have that many kids, couldn't raise that many kids, but we were all over the place, and I was the only one born in Boston. All my siblings were born in Chicago, and they moved to Boston while my mother was 9 months pregnant.
Wow.
And they had me, and we were living in the projects and Mission Hill, and we were taken away by the state. And
oh, really? All the kids are just you and your brother?
Like the 5 youngest were. Because I have siblings that are 20 years older than me. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
So they were already on their own. But the 5 youngest were placed into foster care or put in homes. And
because you had no money, or because you weren't being taken care of well?
All the above.
Wow.
My parents just weren't able to care for us. And,
how old are you, Jose, when that happened?
Immediately, as soon as I was born.
Oh, wow. And so your brother was what, 4 or 5 years old?
Yeah, he was 5 and a half.
Okay.
And and that's the funny thing, is he basically thought I was his. So when I was born, he took it upon himself to take care of me, and they actually put us in the same home right away.
Right.
And I mean, I was 3 weeks old, and there's families in our town that have funny stories, like, oh, one day Tito showed up in the snow to my house with a newborn baby in his hands and said, like show and tell, look what I got. And, if it was today, it would be all over the news.
Oh, yeah. He just took you out, huh?
Yeah, and it was miles away.
Hey.
Yeah. So my wife finally got on your show.
Yeah.
And,
I just love Dave. That's all.
Thank you. Someone loves me.
Yeah. So we were there for a while, and then back then, your blood parents had the legal right to know where you were. This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah.
And they came for a visit and actually took us.
Oh, really? They kidnapped you, essentially.
They kidnapped us and took us back to Chicago. And then I was in Chicago for like 2 years. They couldn't find us, and it was brutal, living in like apartments with no running water, no electricity, stuff like that.
Were your parents not working, or they just couldn't make enough money?
It was all the above. I think mental illness combined with alcohol abuse and just craziness,
Right.
And it wasn't until like my uncle, my mother's brother, said enough's enough, and he called the authorities, the police and
Right.
FBI, whatever, and they came and busted down and got the kids and, took my parents away and finally flew us back to Boston. I was old enough to remember my first plane flight, and that was it.
Oh, wow. How old are you?
I was like 4, and went back, and I was in another couple of foster homes for a little bit until finally that same family, the Raymond family, said that they wanted me and Tito, and they got us back.
Right.
And we grew up there, and they finally adopted us when I was officially adopted us. I was in 4th grade. Tito was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
And then that it went from there. And
Were they good people, those people that adopted you?
yeah, they're great people. Great people, They already had kids of their own as well. In the same year we got adopted, they got a divorce.
Oh, wow. That's weird.
That's where it got tricky, because then they weren't around, and I was still only in 4th grade.
Right.
That's where Tito really stepped in and manned up, and he wasn't able to have a normal childhood where he could be a kid. He was always a father.
Right.
And now he's a great father. He has 2 kids of his own, and he had a lot of practice from when he was younger.
Right.
And so he basically raised me in the sense of doing all the things that a parent would do, sit me down, talk to me, and we would have late night conversations. This ain't ever gonna happen to us. We're gonna get the hell out of here and do something. And that's where the fight inside of me comes from. Was like, no matter what, I'm gonna fight my ass off until I'm somewhere I want to be. I'm never gonna settle for sitting here and living a life that I don't think is right.
Right.
So, he instilled that in me at a very young age, and God bless him, because I don't know where I would have been without him.
How did he do it emotionally? How did he handle all that? I mean, that had to be a huge burden on him.
I think we both fed off each other, because he couldn't worry and complain or be complacent. He had other things to worry about. He had a younger brother to raise,
Did he go to college? What happened when he hit, because he was in high school, when he was ready to graduate high school, where did he go?
Yeah, he got a scholarship. He was a nasty football player. I didn't get a scholarship because I'm 4 inches shorter than him. And he went to Springfield College, and he got a great scholarship. Springfield's about 2 hours from where we grew up. So
that's where Chris went, right?
Yeah, same school. Yeah. And I used to take the bus to see him almost every weekend.
Oh, wow. How old are you?
I was 12, 13.
Wow, you took the bus by yourself, huh?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding me? I was partying. I was,
Oh, you got into trouble then once he got out of there, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he used to either have to come home or you'd hear about it. And, it was a rough couple of years. And then, right around 17, 18, I had to make a decision. I'm either going to go to jail or I'm going to go to college.
Right.
And, I saved some money, and I had to take a year off when I first got out of high school just to be able to work and save a little money.
Right.
And then I went to school, and I did very well in college because I finally knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to study.
Sure.
And it wasn't just regular algebra and shit like that in high school. It was, kinesiology and anatomy and physiology and the study of human movement, all that stuff, nutrition.
Uh-huh.
And I wanted to learn that because I was already training. I was already jacked. I was already competing. So it made sense. And that's when things really started to turn around. I had some direction. I had some, enjoyment. Things really started to make sense for me. And, I stopped getting in trouble, by then.
How'd you catch up, though? Because, you had to have I'm sure you weren't a great student when you weren't going to school and you were being a real troublemaker, huh?
No, I was terrible. Because I either wouldn't go or I'd be getting in fights or I'd, do the dumbest shit possible. Just a clown. But I was never a dumb kid, I was, IQ-wise, I could learn just by sitting in class.
Right.
And that was something that my father, Mr. Raymond, who adopted me, he said to me, he's like, you don't have to study. You don't have to do homework. Just go to class.
Right.
And you know what? I had great attendance. And that was a way that I was able to get by, was that I did absorb a lot of it just by being there.
Right.
And I was never a homework guy.
Right. Interesting that you were able to absorb knowledge and you were smart enough to stay in class at least, because a lot of guys just would skip school, I would think, at that point.
Yeah. I got absorbed just enough to get me to the next level.
Right.
And then, as soon as I was able to study what I was interested in, then I really started to thrive.
Right. What? Yeah. Do you ever did you ever reconnect with your birth parents at all?
Once in a while. My dad is in hospice right now.
Oh wow.
He was living in Florida with my sister, and he's got dementia, and he's a little too much for her to handle now.
Yeah.
So he's been in hospice for probably about 2 months now.
Oof.
And it's not like hospice what it used to be, where it's you have a few days left in you. It's more of comfortable living. In hopes that he will be all right. But he's closing in on 80 now, and he's had a rough go.
Yeah.
My birth mother's healthy as a tick. She's strong, and I don't see them much because I wasn't raised by them, so I don't speak fluent Spanish, and they don't really speak fluent English. So
oh, really? They still, after all these years, they don't speak English?
My father does a little. My mom doesn't really. I mean, she lives in Jamaica Plain in Boston, where there's areas where you do not need to speak English.
Right.
It's all restaurants, stores, and everything is Puerto Rican there. Everything, she don't need to. She don't try. And I got my life to worry about. I got this house to deal with. I got my life.
Is there resentment there? I mean, I have to imagine that there's got to be some feelings of abandonment coming from you.
No, there's no resentment whatsoever, because I was blessed to not have been raised in that environment.
Right.
I was for a very short time, but I would have been a Latin king or some kind of drug dealer or something stupid.
Right.
Instead, I was raised in a very affluent town and around amazing families, and got to go to college and get educated and travel the world. And my life has turned out pretty amazing as opposed to what it could have been.
Sure.
So no, there's no resentment at all. They had problems that were beyond their scope of fixing it. They didn't get the help that they needed. We're talking the early 70s. A Puerto Rican family that had too many kids. Nobody cared about them. They weren't getting the appropriate help, and there's zero resentment. And when I have seen them through the years, we get along great. It is what it is.
Yeah. When you think about all the obstacles that you've had to overcome, your whole life, I mean, you're really a success story, in everything you've put your mind to. I mean, how does that translate in terms of when you have, I know you help a lot of people now, you train a lot of guys, and I'm sure you mentor guys, I know you got guys ready for competitions. I mean, when someone complains to you, I mean, who the fuck can complain to you? You fucking endured more torture, more suffering, more adversarial type I guess you could say situations than anyone ever could that could possibly come to you for coaching. How do you respond to these guys?
That's something I've had to practice and internalize. It's similar to with relationships, when your wife complains to you about something, and I'm like, really? Is that the world? But you have to at the same time realize that just because that wouldn't bother you doesn't mean it doesn't bother them. So I'll say to them, don't worry about that. I try to put it back on me and say, let me worry about that. Don't you worry about, things like that. Just try to get more sleep, try to get more fluid, try to, whatever. And, sometimes that's what half of them are paying you for, is to hold their hand and make them feel good, As long as they're getting better, I'm doing my job. And, I agree with you, though, for the most part. A lot of it is such nonsense that I can't relate to it. I mean, I'm fine off of, I can go 60 grams of carbs, 2 hours of cardio every day for a month straight. Sure, I'm tired, but it's not killing me. I still got to work, too.
Yeah, I know. You would never stop working. Can Flex Lewis be beaten this year? I mean, this is his last year also. I mean, can you beat him? I mean, obviously you're not going to fucking play second. You're going to win. Can you beat him?
Yes. I wouldn't do the show if I didn't think I could. And let me just say this. I mean, I don't like predictions but I feel better than I have in years. Because, I couldn't train a certain way for the last 2 years. I had knee surgery 2 years ago.
Right.
And I couldn't train the way that I needed to. And this year, I've been able to train unbelievably, even with the hip. Because the hip is totally different than a knee. And, my condition today is almost on par with what I was on stage last year. Wow. So I got a month left.
Yep.
So, we're in a very, very good position for me to be at my best. And I've been saying it, I'm saving my best for last. And I want to go out with a bang. I want to, show everyone that, this old man is put in 30 years of hard work, 26 years competing. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to go out letting some new young kid kick my ass, It ain't going to happen.
You know what? If I was a betting man, which I'm not, I would never bet against you, because anyone who's heard the stories you just told would know better than to ever say, "Oh, he's done," because that's when you're the most dangerous, when people assume that.
I always say I'm always my best when my back's against the wall, when there's adversity. Yeah. It brings out a little extra something. And even the year I won the Arnold Classic was brutal. We got 9 feet of snow in that February.
I remember that,
so just getting to an open gym was crazy.
Yeah.
And I had to shovel for 2 hours before I'd go to be able to do an hour of cardio. So it ended up being one of my best looks ever. And I think anytime you really have, I don't think I would have been a good champ, like Flex 6, 7 in a row, like Phil, because I'd be like, I'm the champ. Someone's going to put me back against
let me have a couple beers, right?
Yeah, I need adversity. I need a good challenge to be my best. So, like I said, I'm not going to make predictions, but I will predict that I am going to be very tough. No one's just going to walk over me.
Well, looking forward to seeing you up on that stage for the last time, Jose, and I'm sure you'll make the last one the best one, as you said. And thank you for this honest, really forthright interview you gave with us. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and it's going to inspire a lot of people. And that's, after all, what we're all here to accomplish,
Exactly.
And on that note, that'll take us to the end of another RXMuscle Iron Road to the Olympia 2018, brought to you by Redcon 1. I'm Dave Palumbo. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Dave.